Welcome to our house. This is the Screenplay Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Grenis, and with me, as always, is PGA Tour player Andrew Novak.
How's it going? Last episode of the regular season of the 2023, not 2024 year. Let's get it.
Yeah, what a crazy week of football this was. So many games on Sunday, a lot of playoff implications, a lot of final games in fantasy leagues. If your league has another week, I don't know why. It's just that's weird. Fantasy leagues should have
Don't do
ended
that.
should have ended this past week. We're gonna get into it all. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes dropping every Wednesday, 8 a.m. All right, we're gonna start with the game on Sunday night. Sunday night football. Packers beat the Vikings 33-10. Packers win the game and increase their playoff odds to 60%. They have the Bears next week. The game is in Lambeau. I think they win that and they get in. The Vikings lose this game and they fall to a 3% chance. Basically, unless a million things happen, they're not looking at a playoff spot. We're not really going to talk too much about this game, but like, what are you thinking of Jordan Love and the Packers going into the last week of the season and forward?
Flat out, Jordan Love and the Packers are just trending the right way. They have been for the last month or so, maybe a little more. Um, they're definitely peaking at the right time. Other than Reed went out a little bit dinged up this game, but they're kind of getting a little healthier with their running backs. Aaron Jones starting to look like himself. Um, yeah, they're a team that could be a little bit pesky in the playoffs. They are playing really good football. Jordan Love is looking like an absolute uh, hit of a pick for them. I mean, I don't know how the Packers keep doing this, but he is so impressive. Like really, really great season from him, and especially these last 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, the Packers have a system when it comes to the quarterback, and they stick by it, like regardless of
Mm-hmm.
what, the media is saying. The Packers are about to have their third franchise QB in a row. I mean, teams
Mm-hmm.
don't do that. Like that doesn't happen in the NFL. Like what the Packers do is they draft someone, they sit him, he learns for 2 or 3 years, and then he comes in and takes over. And it kind of goes like against the conventional norm of like what other teams do, where you draft a sick quarterback and then for the first 3 or 4 years you got him on his rookie deal and you load up the team and you try to win there. That's not what like the Green Bay Packers do at all. They draft someone, sit them, have them take over when they're ready, and they're about to be on their third guy, who's probably going to run this team for the next 10 years. I mean, when you look at teams like Miami, like they had one good quarterback, and then it took them 20 years to find another quarterback that
Yeah.
can play ball. Packers just do this drafting and developing of quarterbacks really, really well.
I mean, yeah, it's possible that it's kind of understated, like how big the jump is from college to pros, and all these teams. You see the Browns taking a first round quarterback every other year, and just throwing him in the starting job and just hoping it works. Maybe that really isn't the way to go. Give them 3 years to just understand what it's like to be a professional and see how you're supposed to handle yourself, how you're supposed to lead a team, how you're supposed to practice, prepare, and then kind of give them the reins. It's clearly working in Green Bay, and um, this is why they've been so good for so long.
Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum. A team that's really bad at drafting quarterbacks is like the Chicago Bears. So the Chicago Bears have Justin Fields, and obviously Green Bay has Jordan Love. Do you think if like these two guys like switched career paths, like their careers would look very similar? And this is just that Green Bay does an extremely well job of drafting and teaching these quarterbacks to learn and grow and get into the system? Or do you think that Jordan Love like really is like truly a head and shoulders above like Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think so. When the Packers went and got Jordan Love, there are a lot of similarities from Jordan Love's game to Aaron Rodgers, to what he does. His ability to kind of make off-platform throws. He's got the arm for pretty much anything. Um, I feel like he was able to learn a lot from Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers was necessarily like, walking him through it, but just going out and watching what he does, I felt like there was a lot to go off of. I don't know if Justin Fields, like rolling into the Bears and then sitting behind Andy Dalton, is gonna like. It's hard to see himself there. They're very different players. That's not. Um, that's not as easy for him to make that comparison. Also, he's such a freak athlete. Like he kind of is the quarterback. You let him go. You let him go out there and run around and play some schoolyard ball and figure it out himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it could have helped, absolutely, but it's a little bit different just based on style of quarterback, I think.
Yeah. We'll talk about Justin Fields a little bit more later. Let's get into the Cowboys and the Lions game. The Cowboys beat the Lions 20-19. You could make an argument here that either team should have won this game. If you told me like after watching the game, like the Lions or the Cowboys like won this game like 30-10, I would have been like, yep, seems reasonable. Like after watching that, I mean, it really could have gone either way. Like Dallas had a touchback on a fumbled ball through the end zone, but they also had terrible play calling at the end of the game. Um, the Lions look good, but they're also so damn aggressive that like it's also one of their own weaknesses,
Mhm.
going for it 3 times in a row at the end. Um, the point I want to make is basically I don't trust either of these teams in the playoffs after watching this game. Like they're both extremely good, but they also both have flaws. Can either one of these teams win a home game or win like the first round playoff game? Yes. Can either one of these teams stack 3 games together? I have zero confidence in that at all, especially with a game on the road.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, the Lions playing their kind of Dan Campbell style of football, super aggressive. Like,
It's so
yeah, that
aggressive
can
that
that can
it's
help you beat somebody, but
yeah.
that also can put you in some bad spots against maybe some teams that you should beat, or maybe you let a team back into a game doing something maybe you shouldn't.
What do you think about the play calls at the end of the game? So they go for the 2 point conversion to win the game. I think everyone is fine with that first initial call, like going
Yeah,
for it.
well, yeah, because they hit it. They hit the
Yep.
first one too. Obviously there was, there's still no clear answer on whether that was ref error, whether the
Right.
players got it mixed up, who reported. But bottom line, number 68 was supposed to be an eligible receiver, and he caught the pass and would have, essentially won them in the game there. And there was an issue, obviously, in getting that reported and then, flagged. I thought it was a bit bold going for it from the 7. That seemed a bit aggressive. But then once they got the offsides penalty back at the 3.5 yard line, that's back within reason. And honestly, a better ball from Jared Goff hitting the guy, hitting the tight end in stride there, and he scores. So, um, I didn't really agree with the second one, but that's how Dan Campbell is. He said he told his offense, if we score a touchdown here, we're going for the win. And you know, he keeps it true to his team. He is who he is, and I think that's part of why the team loves him and why they've been so successful. He's been a great leader for them.
Yeah. They're very aggressive, almost to their own demise. But Goff, I looked at his numbers this year. He hasn't had a stretch of 3 games in a row without a pick. He's become very turnover heavy this year. That worries me, not being able to get through games, mistake free. And then the secondary is trash. It is allowing people over the top, allowing tons of points get on the board. With those two problems, I just stringing 3 games in a row in the playoffs together against good competition scares me. The
Yeah,
thing that scares me with Dallas though is the play calling. Towards the end of every fourth quarter, it seems like it's kind of the same thing. Like Dallas gets the ball down the field and then does something stupid, and you got to talk about it the next morning.
yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, some of it's fluky. Like obviously the CD fumble through the end zone. Like you can argue, worst rule in the game, the touch fumble through the touch through fumble through the end zone is a touchback, whatever. I mean, that's fluky, like
Right.
for sure. But in the playoffs, if something fluky happens like that, like all of a sudden you're in a close game, you could lose. Like you can't have stuff like that. They've definitely had some issues like with that in the past, and we know that like the Cowboys, like they find a way to just mess it up in the playoffs. So like they're gonna kind of have to get that monkey off their back in the playoffs. And I don't know, their offense is putting up such huge numbers. Like I feel like they're gonna score their points, but I do agree. Like in the playoffs, you need those to be touchdowns instead of field goals,
Right.
like you're
Like
saying, like messing up.
can they handle like a Bucks team on the road in the first round. I do believe they can,
Mhm.
but you get to the second round, you're on the road again, and you're playing a tougher opponent than what the 9-8 Bucks are going to be. Some of these just play calling errors, throwing the ball out of bounds with a minute left on the clock instead of keeping it running. Just a lot of little mistakes, coaching errors that can't happen in playoffs. Otherwise, you're going to be gone.
Well, so I think, right now you could be looking at them playing potentially a Packers team at home in that first game because with the Philly loss, Dallas is now the 2 seed.
Oh, right.
So,
Okay.
so obviously, like Dallas at home, we talked about the splits. Dallas at home is a
Yep.
much bigger deal. But even
Yep.
still, like a pesky Packers team hanging like the way they've
Yeah.
been playing, like
Yeah. 7-0 at
not
home, and I
impossible.
think it's 3-5 on the road.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Ravens beat the Dolphins 56-19. So you and I were both on this game. We both bet this game. We thought the Ravens were in a great spot here. I think it was -3.5 we took. They were back at home after facing a Miami team that was injured. They're bad away from home, and they were coming off a big win. Lamar
mm,
showed why he's the MVP of the league. He's going to win it. There's no question about it. The Ravens put up 491 yards of offense and absolutely routed the Dolphins. I mean, Lamar's playing so good. He is like the most valuable player in the league. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. They're saying that Lamar is worth about 10.5 to 11 points in gambling on the line. That is about equivalent as to what Aaron Rodgers was in his prime. 10.5 to 11 points. That's crazy. I mean,
and don't forget,
a good quarterback in
Tyler
this
Huntley.
league gives you about 6 points. Lamar is up to like 10.5, 11.
Yeah. And don't forget, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler last year. So it's not even
Mm-hmm.
like that backup's, terrible. But no,
Well,
he had 3 incompletions in this game. He had 5 touchdown passes. He was hanging around 14 yards per attempt uh, throwing the ball. Just freakish stuff. I know you and I kind of talked last week. We were on this game. We kind of could see this being a blow up game for the Dolphins. I didn't see it getting this bad for them. Um, you know, turnovers. It got ugly kind of early and then late, especially.
yeah, you said if Waddle's not out there with Hill, they're a different team.
Well,
So that
for
you had
whatever
that, and
reason,
then I believe let's see, Mostert was out,
yeah,
and then Bradley Chubb injury. So the Dolphins have
yeah,
some real injury problems now at the wrong time of the
yeah.
year.
They've got some serious injury issues right now. Probably about as bad as anybody, especially as far as potential contenders, and that's going to be a big hurdle for them this week for sure.
Yeah, they got the Bills coming up.
Mhm.
Lamar had a perfect passer rating this week. That's the third time in his career. How many of those do you think Mahomes has?
It's probably got a few, I would think, around
Zero.
there.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Wow, that is
uh,
crazy.
Tyler Huntley had a perfect passer rating this week too. He threw 1 pass for 19 yards.
Yeah, there
They
you go.
had 2 quarterbacks to throw a perfect passer rating this week. I think it's the first time since like 1940 that's
I think I
happened.
remember. I think Lamar had Lamar. It was either a Sunday night or Monday night against the Rams a few years ago. I remember him having a crazy one, maybe 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, and
Yep.
again like only a few incompletions.
All right. I want to ask you, who do you think who can take down the Ravens at this point, going into the playoffs? I have one idea of a team in mind, but I want to see who you're thinking.
Is it the Broncos?
It's not. The Broncos are
Okay.
not going to be in the playoffs. So
um, it's gonna have to be somebody physical. I think that. Are you talking AFC side only?
yeah.
So I think the Bills, if they get a game where their run game is kicking,
Okay.
I can see the Bills possessing the ball and giving them some problems. Uh, and then honestly, like it's kind of crazy to say it, but Cleveland, like if they
That's
can
what
get
I
a
have.
game,
Yep.
if the Cleveland defensive line can dictate enough in that game, if they can shut down the run, force them to be a little bit more one dimensional. Like Lamar's going to get his on some scrambles, but if you get a few sacks, get him off schedule, like
hmm
I don't know, Joe
So
Flacco revenge
it's
game. Like I don't.
so it's there's a scenario where the Browns would play the Ravens And I believe just like the top seeds got to win their playoff games. But if that's the case, then the Browns would play the Ravens. And that's going to be the third time that they've played them this year. So,
Mhm.
they've seen Lamar, they know how to deal with him. Their defense
Yeah,
is great. And they're also riding off of that Joe Flacco just juice and energy. So I think if there's
yeah,
any team that's going to get in the way, it's the Cleveland Browns. And like the Ravens will be going on a 2 week break. Will that be good for them? Like, I don't know. So,
yeah.
um, yeah, that's kind of the only team that I can really see getting in the way at this moment. Let's go to Thursday night football. A little while ago, the Browns beat the Jets 37-20. I had this game on my board and I took it off at the last minute. I really like Browns -7. Should have stuck with it, and I
Mhm.
didn't. The Jets suck, and the Browns defense is just too good for any QB that the Jets can field. Thursday night games have been a blowout this year, pretty much every single week. So whichever team you think's going to get the blowout win, you pick that. And I mean, this week was not any different. Flacco went 19 for 29, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. He has 13 touchdowns in 5 games, and he has
Mhm.
Njoku looking literally like a top 3 tight end in football. I mean, they're
Mhm.
connecting so well. Flacco's playing well. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, Flacco. I mean, he had no Amari Cooper. He didn't have his number one wide receiver, and then Elijah Moore, who was pretty much the guy with no Amari, then goes down with a concussion. I think in the second quarter, maybe.
Yep.
They still put up 34 points in the first half. I mean, it just Njoku's running free through the middle of the field the entire first half. He had 134 yards. I think that was entirely in the first half. I think he had that at halftime. Um, just really, really impressive stuff. They didn't have much as far as wide receivers, and he just got it done with running backs and tight ends. He's running this offense really well, making some good throws, making some pretty good decisions. He did have one interception, but for the most part, keeping it clean, and uh, that's more than enough for this Browns team to win, especially with their defense.
Yeah, he's thrown for 300 plus yards in 4 of the 5 games he started. He has not had less than 16 fantasy points in any matchup he started. And honestly, he's playing better than Deshaun on a portion of the contract that Deshaun has. The only thing that worries me is Flacco has started 5 games this year and he has 8 turnovers. So 8 turnovers in 5 game. That's kind of a lot of turnovers. Could bite you in the butt if you get like a 2 turnover game in the playoffs. But yeah, I think
Mhm.
as long as he keeps it clean, cleanish, then the Broncos can do something. Or I'm sorry, the Browns can do something.
Mhm.
The question I have though is what would Flacco have to do in the playoffs to remain the starter for the Cleveland Browns moving into next season? So obviously they have Deshaun Watson on this killer contract. If Flacco loses in the first round or something, like I can't imagine that he's going to come back and start for the Cleveland Browns next year. But let's say he gets to a Super Bowl or an NFC or an AFC championship. Like, whoa, what does Flacco have to do here to keep this job? If he even wants it, like moving forward.
I mean, Flacco's 38 years old. He turns 39 in 2 weeks. So, like, realistically, does he even want to?
That's
Like, this is
yeah,
like I'm sure he's enjoyed coming back and having this nice run with them, and he's playing great football. But like, does he want to go through like OTAs? Does he want to go through a full off season, or is this just he kept himself in good shape and he's rolling into a pre-made team and he gets to do this? I have no idea.
I
Realistically,
could see him doing this next year again. Sitting out the first half of the season, waiting
yeah,
for a team to call him up and say, "Hey, can you just
it's
run
possible.
back 8 games for us again?" Yeah,
Yeah, I just don't see like Cleveland with that Deshaun contract. I just don't see realistically. I mean, maybe the thing is like say they go all the way and then win the Super Bowl, like Flacco's just going to ride off in the sunset with that. Like, why would you even
yeah,
come back
that's
after
true.
doing
I
something
guess I
like
didn't
that?
think about that. Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I think Deshaun Watson's definitely going to be your starter for the Browns next year, especially with that contract. Hopefully he can get healthy next year. It's been definitely a rough stretch these last few years for him, just off the field stuff and then injuries.
Yep. Cardinals beat the Eagles 35-31. Bit of a surprise here. So the Eagles had a 15-point lead at halftime, and they blow that lead to the Cardinals to take another loss. That's the fourth loss in 5 games. Now, with 1 week left in the regular season, it's kind of getting scary. Losing 4 out of 5. Eagles just look confused and things are not clicking. The offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, is crushing it with the Colts, and the defensive coordinator who left, Gannon, is overperforming this year in Arizona. He just beat his former team, obviously, this week. The Eagles have some serious concerns. Like, how scary is this with 1 week left to get this stuff right?
I'm very concerned. The Eagles defense is just a complete nightmare. Like you just you can't be giving up 35 points to the Cardinals. The Cardinals held the ball for 40 minutes in this game. Eagles only had 20 minutes time of possession. Cardinals had 32 first downs, 5 of 10 on third down, 2 of 2 on fourth down. They just could not get off the field. Uh, Pretty much, Cardinals ran for 220 yards. They just ran it on them, and the Eagles just couldn't do anything to stop it. This is not really what we were expecting for this Eagles team. This Eagles run defense was solid earlier in the year, and they were having secondary issues, and now it's just kind of everything. Um, they're really in free fall. They had, a win last week that was hopefully going to be a get right game, especially followed up by this game, and now they're just, um, I mean, they're really in free fall now. They play the Giants this week. It's really really important. I mean, I don't think it means as much as far as the playoffs. They could, with the Cowboys loss, they could still win the division, but I think more than anything, they need a win and they need to at least play some decent football to give the guys a little bit of confidence going into the playoffs.
Yeah, like you're talking about their defense, their pass rush last year was first in the league. This year, they have just a little more than half the amount of sacks. I mean, honestly, like I don't think it's much of a personnel issue on this team. They have like a lot of good players. The
Mm-hmm.
only difference really is the OC and DC leaving, and just not quite being able to match up to what they were last year. Does this leave any like questions in your head about Nick Sirianni? I mean, it's really the first time all year that people have been, questioning Nick Sirianni at all. Because he's more of a walk around coach, he's not leading the
Yeah,
offense, he's not leading the defense, he's more of just a leader in the room type guy.
yeah. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't think I don't think he's doing a terrible job as far as keeping the locker room together. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of like there's not a lot of drama coming out of there. I think guys are frustrated and especially like absolutely they should be. Like it's been some pretty rough football lately. But like it seems like the locker room's still together. Like I'm not like hearing any nightmare stories coming out of there, but it's just the football is not really working out. So I don't know. I think maybe he whiffed on some coordinator hires potentially. So you throw some blame there, but I don't think necessarily that like Sirianni's going to get chopped or anything for this. I think um, they've just hit a rough patch, and it's the kind of first rough patch we've really seen in 2 years out of them.
Yeah. I think if they want to have any success, they just got to turn those turnovers down. 14 interceptions
Yeah,
for Hurts this year in 16
yeah.
games on an interception per game. That's concerning. Got to get that cleaned up here in this last week. Maybe see like a clean game out of Hurts and get that rolling into the playoffs. The Broncos beat the Chargers 16-9. Um, we're not really going to talk about, what happened in this game, but just about the news this week out of Denver. So the Broncos decide to bench Wilson in favor of Stidham. They say that it's because of the injury clause in his contract, stating that if he does not pass his physical at the beginning of next year, they will owe him an additional $37 million. Honestly, you and I both bet this game earlier in the week on Denver to cover. When they made this news, like it didn't affect me and my bet whatsoever. I was actually quite happy that Stidham was playing. I felt very confident in the bet still. Sean Payton likes Stidham. He brought him in here. Stidham plays well in the system they're running. And especially if you consider the contracts they're getting, I like Stidham in this situation. What do you think that what do you think they're gonna do going forward next season with Russ?
I think Russ is gone. I think seeing you don't do this to a guy that you see being the leader of your team going forward, regardless of what it means as far as like owing him money or something. Like if he's your guy, like who cares if like you have to pay, like you let your guy play. Um, no, I think they're looking to move on. I think we see Russell Wilson somewhere else. I don't know where that'll be. I think
I
it
agree with
probably
you.
have to
So
be.
what do you think are the options? What other teams out there will give them a call and be willing to look at Russ? I have a couple down here. I'm wondering what you're thinking.
I I have basically one target. I think I'm a Panthers fan, but I think the coolest spot he could end up would be Atlanta because I think he would fit what they want to do. They're going to run the ball a lot, which in Seattle they ran the ball a lot, and then he'll have the ability to pretty much work with Drake London. I think he does well putting the ball up to some guys. I think it'll open up things for Drake London, Kyle Pitts, taking advantage of some mismatches maybe down the field. And I think he'll add some stability there, which they definitely need with this whole quarterback jockeying thing they've done. The Falcons aren't going to have a good enough pick in this draft to really get one of the top guys. So I think free agency is kind of going to be their best bet, or you know, finding something else, finding another quarterback from within the league already. So I think that would probably be the best place for him to end up.
Yeah. I think I have a better feeling that Fields will end up going there, just being
I,
indoors.
I,
And I
I
think
do
Fields is
agree,
a little
yes.
more
But
suited for that team. The only other place that I can really think is if Belichick stays with the Patriots, I could see Russell and the Patriots working out okay. Cold weather, run the ball, play good defense.
the one way I see that working is if,
Only if Belichick stays. If a new coach comes in, there's no
well,
way he's gonna want to take
yeah,
that. I can see if
they'd have
Belichick
to be
stays.
completely confident that they could get Marvin Harrison as well, I believe.
Okay.
I think like Russ would probably want like something to work with as far as weapon. Like, I mean, if you go get Marvin Harrison, so say they're like third pick, so they're going to not get. So the Patriots end up third pick. They're not going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Then maybe it does make sense if they're not like a huge fan of Jaden Daniels, then maybe go get Russ, take Marvin Harrison with that pick, and then see what you can do with, or see what Bill can do with that working with. I don't know.
As a Patriots fan, that would give me some excitement going into next year. A Russ and
Yeah, that would
Marvin
absolutely
Harrison
be exciting.
with Ramon Stevenson in the backfield. Like that's you got Hunter Henry and Jaceki. Got some stuff to work with.
Yeah, it
That could
wouldn't be
give
horrible. I don't know if it would work or not, but
no, yeah, that could give me a little
it could be
excitement.
interesting at the very least.
Yeah. All right. The Chiefs beat the Bengals 25-17. Well, the Chiefs won this one. But I'm not sure how much confidence they're going to build moving forward into the final week of the regular season with this win. It was ugly. The drops continued. It wasn't a convincing win by any standard. But they did win. They get the AFC West title for the eighth straight year. Um, I want to bring this up. I haven't heard anybody talking about this. I thought of it today. People always kind of say, Brady was in a terrible division for 15 years. That's how he won so many games and so many Super Bowls. And I was looking at the AFC West and I'm like, Mahomes is kind of dealing with the same thing, but no one out in the air is talking about it. Like the Broncos have been atrocious since their last Super Bowl, ripping through QBs. Since their Super Bowl in 2015, they're on their fifth coach with zero playoff appearances. Raiders, they're on their 13th coach in 20 years. They haven't won a playoff game since 2002, and they've changed locations. And then you got the Chargers, who are on their sixth coach in 20 years and have never won anything. Yeah, they got a great quarterback, but they're the Chargers. Your eighth AFC West title in 8 years. I mean, he's ripping through this division every year. This division's trash. People just aren't really talking about it that much.
Yeah, I think part of like what creates that longevity though, like the fact that they win the division every year also leads to some of that instability other places because if other coaches are failing and not making the playoffs, not winning the division, they're getting recycled after 3 years or whatever. So that does create instability at those other places. Um, I think this is the most vulnerable that Kansas City has looked in probably at least like 3 years.
Yep.
Um, but I do agree. Like, I don't think any of those other teams in the next like 2 years are going to be like a massive threat unless maybe the Chargers can figure it out. At least they have a quarterback. Um, I don't see like any of them posing like a huge threat to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like you
to
said,
take the division.
Kansas City looks very vulnerable. Mahomes is throwing the ball quick. I think it was Dan Orlovsky I heard yesterday. He was saying he is releasing the ball way too early for a lot of these receivers on their routes. And that basically just stems from no trust in the offensive tackles. He knows guys are coming at him. We talked about this last
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
And he's got to get rid of that ball early. I mean, this team leads the league in drops, and maybe that's part of it. Just not hitting them at the right part of their routes when it's ready to come. I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
it's scary, and I honestly have no idea what the Chiefs are going to do. If they went out and got it together and won a Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they lost in the first round, putting up 13 points, I wouldn't be surprised
Hmm.
either.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
teams
don't
know.
disagree.
I don't know what to expect with them moving forward.
Yeah. This game to me felt like they were trying to get right. Um, Early on, like Pacheco was averaging like literally like 14 yards a carry. He had like 4 carries for like
Yeah,
50 something
He went off
yards,
this week. Yep.
and they were like still spamming passing. Like it's like they are just trying so hard to get Mahomes in rhythm with these wide receivers, and they it just wasn't working. Like the run game's been great. Like their ability to run the ball, like their guards and center combo is really nice. They can move people in the middle, but um, I just don't see like this Chiefs team like working without the passing game clicking at least somewhat.
Yeah, definitely some concern for Kansas City this year. The Bills beat the Patriots 27-21. The Patriots started off this game with a kickoff return, but after that, it was ugly, turning the ball over 3 times in the first quarter. Even with that, the Bills couldn't put away the Patriots and only win by 6. It's their fourth straight win. Next week, the Bills are playing the Dolphins at Miami. The winner gets the number 2 seed. There is a scenario where if the Bills lose, they could miss the playoffs. It's kind of a wild scenario. If they win, they have the 2 seed. If they lose, they'll probably still likely get in, but there is a scenario where if they lose, they just miss the playoffs.
Mhm.
Um, let's just talk about the matchup for next week, Bills Dolphins. I mean, because the Bills Patriots game is, we don't really want to talk about that. The Dolphins have a ton of injuries, but they are back at home. What are you expecting next week out of that game?
I just, again, I've talked about it. Like the Miami offense just seems so handicapped when they don't have both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Their ability to open up, clear out with whatever route they're running, open up things for the other, is really what makes that offense work, in my opinion. And I just I don't see it happening for Miami. They have too many injuries. Um, I think the Bills are going to be able to hold the ball for a decent bit more. I think they'll be able to run on Miami a little bit, enough to keep the ball, and I just think they're the better team right now.
Yeah, Miami is starting to they kind of do like a reverse Bengals. Like the Bengals start off like crap and then get hot. Miami starts off hot and then kind of finishes the regular season slow every year. Or at least under McDaniels, is kind of what I've seen. The injuries are definitely concerning. We've already talked about it. Chubb out, Waddle injured.
Yeah.
But people are pretty high on the Bills right now too. But if you look at their last 2 weeks, like they're not very convincing wins. They beat
Mhm.
the Chargers by 2 and they snuck past the Pats by 6. I mean, that's a little bit concerning for the Bills.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
they probably should be performing a little better against those teams.
I do
If
agree.
you look in the media right now, you'd think that the Bills are just crushing teams and playing so
Mhm.
well, but I guess they're
Yeah.
not really either.
The thing, like, and the one thing I guess that is a little bit concerning for the Bills is they're coming off like such a tough stretch. I know, they had the Patriots this week, but they might be showing a little bit of fatigue from that brutal stretch they had, um, leading up to that. We talked about like I want to say maybe a little over a month ago, like how brutal the stretch was because the Bills were kind of down to like they couldn't really afford to lose any more games, and they were about to go into a stretch where they played Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, all three in a row. They lost that Eagles game, but then they beat the Chiefs and the Cowboys. But like that's three huge games. Every game that they've played is super stressful because they can't afford like losses. And then these last two games have been close, so they've been stressful. Like the team's definitely got to be a bit fatigued. So I do see a bit why they've struggled, but I mean, at this point, it's the last game of the season. It's kind of put up or shut up for
Yep,
them. So I still think the Bills get it done just simply off, I think, being a little bit healthier right now
I agree.
and carrying a little bit more momentum than definitely what Miami has.
Yep. So the 49ers beat the Commanders 27-10. So the Commanders suck. They have decided to part ways with Ron Rivera at the conclusion of the season. I don't think that shocks anybody. I just want to talk about the 49ers. What are the odds that they make the Super Bowl? Do you think it's greater than 50% chance?
If you could guarantee me that they stay healthy within the offensive core, yeah.
All right.
Like I just don't see a team beating them. I know McCaffrey went out dinged up, but it sounded a little bit more precautionary than anything. They knew they were going to win the game. It sounded like calf tightness.
Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised. I bet he sits this week as well. They're just going to rest him up for the playoffs and get right, which honestly, with how many touches he's had this year, is probably the smart move.
All right. So
Um,
who are we sitting in this game if we're the 49ers? CMC is obviously going to sit. What about Debo, Purdy, Trent Williams, Kittle? They're playing the Rams this week. Both these teams have clinched a playoff spot, so regardless of the outcome, both teams are in the
the,
playoffs. Who are
they
you
do
sitting?
not have home field advantage locked up yet, though.
No,
So I'm not really sitting anyone.
I
Maybe
would
you know
sit Trent
McCaff.
Will. I would sit Trent Williams.
Okay, and
I feel like he is more. They are more dependent on him playing for victories as opposed to a Kittle or a Debo or Trent
honestly,
Williams
like
has really got to
if
be
I'm
in there.
San Fran though, like I don't want Dallas getting the one seed. Like I want first off, I want the bye so I get the extra week of rest. But I don't want to have to go to Dallas the way Dallas has played at home this year. Like I want to make sure that everything comes through me. Um,
Okay, but
McCaffrey, if he truly got some muscle,
here's another scenario, okay? Uh there is a very good chance that the 49ers will have to play the Rams again if they get the one seed and they're playing the Rams this week. How much tape do you really want to put out there um playing the Rams this week when that's a very likely opponent in the playoffs?
why would that be likely?
Let's see. The Rams are what seed are the Rams?
So so the Rams are the six right now, but if they lose, they'd slide down. They could take maybe the seven. I'm not entirely sure if they'd either be the six or the seven with a loss. They are locked in, but um, it's one or the other.
Correct. So if the Rams win a first round game,
Right, but that would require them beating Dallas at Dallas or
the Rams are a
Detroit.
scary team right
It's
now.
possible.
I
It's
feel like
possible.
if there's any underdog sleeper team that's going to win a game or two right now, it's the Rams. They're putting up 36 points a week. Their
I mean,
offense is hot. It's not one of
I
the
do
teams I would
agree
want to
they're
play in the
playing
seat.
well,
Yeah.
but if you're a team trying to get the first round bye and home field advantage, you're not worried about the six or seven seed. Like if you like you're trying to win a Super Bowl, like what does it matter if the six or seven seeds playing decent? Like you don't really need to be worried about matchups going forward. You need to be just trying to get yourself that extra week of rest and home field advantage. I don't think that that's necessarily a concern for San Fran.
All right. If I'm Kyle Shannon, I'm playing very vanilla this week. I am not showing anything.
I mean, they got 16 weeks of 16 other games of game tape to look at. It's not this late in the year playing somebody vanilla. I don't think is going to do you a whole lot of good. There's plenty enough game tape of whatever you're doing.
All right. Colts beat the Raiders 23-20. Raiders are eliminated from the playoffs, and the Colts have a big matchup this week in the final week for one of the AFC spots against the Texans. Currently, the Colts hold the final spot and are 9-7. The Texans are 9-7 as well. The game is in Indy, giving them a slight advantage. I think they're underdogs, but they have it at home. Also, I mean, I thought maybe it was a possibility of coach of the year game, but Stefanski took such a large lead into the coach of the year odds that
Mm-hmm.
it might not be. But yeah, massive game this week for the Colts and the Texans. So what do you think? Game in Indy?
Yeah, despite that, it's still unbelievable performance by both these coaches to do what they've done with their teams this year.
Yeah, they're both second in Coach of the Year standings
Yeah,
at plus 800. Stefanski
yeah,
is taking such a massive lead. I don't think that
right.
Ryans or Steichen can really win it after this week. Stefanski's minus 900, but yeah, continue.
Yeah. No, it's a huge game. I think we, touched on it last week. I think, with a healthy CJ Stroud, Texans getting a little more healthy. I do think that they're probably slightly the better of the two teams, but it's a game in Indy. It's essentially like a playoff game. CJ Stroud probably has not played. He hasn't really played in, essentially a playoff like game in the NFL. It's going to be
Oh,
on the road.
this is a playoff game,
Yeah, I
100%.
mean
Like their playoffs
it's do or
start week
die.
18. Yeah.
So they also both have a chance to host, um, to win their division if the Jaguars slip up and lose to the Titans. So I mean they have a ton to play for. Um, this is my game of the week. As far as it's just exciting to see, like both teams are going to be going at it. Like you said, it truly is a playoff game. Like
Yep.
there's going to be some serious energy in this game.
Yep. All right, let's get to some quick news now that we've gotten through the games. So you were at the Panthers game this weekend, right?
Yep.
How was it?
It was awesome. The Panthers are terrible. But that
What
was
was the capacity of the stadium like? Half full,
I'll
75%
be
full?
honest, the Jags fans were loud, man. Especially early on. The game was kind of like you could tell early, like the Panthers were pretty much not gonna have a chance. They couldn't do anything.
Right.
But early on, man, they were making some noise. I was really impressed. That was my first time at Jacksonville, and it essentially was kind of like a must win for them. I know it wasn't against a very good opponent, but fans really showed out. It was, I mean, I would say 85, 90% full. It was
Okay.
great weather.
All right,
It was a
nice.
beautiful day for football, but yeah, it was impressive.
So the news obviously is David Tepper was seen throwing a drink
Hmm.
out of his suite onto some Jaguars fans.
Yeah.
The Panthers lost 26-0. I mean, we're only seeing one side of this story. We're only seeing him throw the drink. We're not seeing what the fan said. I don't know what was said to him. Something must have been said, but that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing as an owner to be seen doing that.
Hopefully the fan told him to, sell the team.
How
I
long
think
ago did he get it?
what's that?
How long ago did he buy it?
I think it's been 4 years now, 3 years.
Quick turnaround, but okay.
Yeah, no, it's I saw they just handed out. I think it was $300,000 fine for what he did, which to him is nothing.
Here's five
Um,
dollars out of my pocket.
yeah,
Sorry.
I was really hoping that the league would force him to sell the team. That would have been cool, but that didn't happen. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a
just an
it's a bad
embarrassing
look. Like
scenario.
I
It's
don't
not good.
care. I don't care what the fan said. Like it's a fan. Like you shouldn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing.
All right, game time this week. This week, we are playing a game, and it's called "You Are the Chicago Bears General Manager." So, Andrew Novak, you are the Chicago Bears General Manager.
Yes.
Congratulations! You just clinched the number one overall pick in the 2024 draft from Carolina. You also have the 10th pick in the draft. What are you going to do? Who are you drafting? Who are you trading with? What are you doing?
So with the first overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears are selecting Caleb Williams
Hmm, they do it.
out of USC. Um, Maybe if the scouts really want Drake May, they can go for that. But I'm going Caleb Williams. I'm taking
Yep.
it and rolling with it. With the
Yep.
10th pick, the Chicago Bears will be taking either Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. We're
Hmm.
getting weapons on top of weapons. We're going
Hmm.
to sling the ball. We're going to have fun with it. We're going to make the city of Chicago build us a dome so we can actually throw the football. Because yeah, I don't want to deal with that. And then yeah, we are trading that Justin Fields probably to Atlanta. Uh, Honestly, whatever we can get. If we can get some first rounders, get a first rounder out of Atlanta, go get a offensive lineman. Um, maybe get a little pass rusher, help defense. Sweat was um, honestly, I thought a pretty big game changer when he got there. He really played some good football when he got to Chicago. So pairing him up with somebody, I don't know, like a Dallas Turner out of Alabama or something like that, um, could be really fun. You know, uh, it looks like they've kind of found something with Tyreek Stevenson at corner. He's really come on the last few weeks, putting up some great numbers, like absolutely contender for defensive rookie of the year. So I think they have pieces. I think they have enough pieces around to, spend that pick on the rookie, move Fields, and then go see what you can do.
Yeah, you have to move Fields. I don't think that's a question right now. So you're taking Caleb and you're not trading down at all. Yeah, with Fields expecting 200 plus million. I mean, Daniel Jones got $45 million a year. Fields is going to want, just as much as that. Yeah, they're done. They're done with Fields. I mean, right now he's technically on a heater. He's won 4 of 5 games, and in that heater, his completion percentage is 59%, 77 passer rating, 4 to 3 touchdown interception ratio, and their defense was the highest scoring defense in that stretch. I mean, even on his heater, he's not a great quarterback. So yeah, they're moving on from him. Um, that's what you believe that they will do. I believe they'll do something like that too. So we'll see what they do with the draft picks that they got coming up. Let's move into our power rankings. Not a whole lot of teams I trust on this list. A lot of movement, but let's get into it. Power rankings at 10. Philadelphia, not the same team this year since the OC and DC are gone. AJ Brown hasn't scored a touchdown in December. They don't know what they are. It's concerning. At 9, we got Miami. Baltimore has embarrassed a lot of teams, not just Miami. Bradley Chubb injury, that's concerning. They are 9-0 when they give up 20 points or fewer. But just can't really trust Miami in big spots. At 8, Kansas City, bad at wide receiver. They lead the league in drops. They did just win their 8th straight AFC West title. It's been rough. Kelsey looks old. I don't know what they're going to do. We'll see. Kansas City at 8. At 7, we got the Rams. Great coach, great wide receivers, great quarterback. Offense is hot. It's a team that I really wouldn't want to play heading into the playoffs with how they're playing right now. At 6, we got the Bills. A lot of people have them higher, but I got them at 6 just because the last 2 weeks, like, they haven't looked great. They've beaten some pretty poor teams by slim margins. They're on 15 straight regular season wins in December and January. Allen leads the league in total touchdowns. Cook and the O-line are playing well. But yeah, it's concerning that they almost lost to the Chargers and narrowly beat the Patriots. At 5, we got the Cowboys, 8-0 at home, 3-5 on the road. Can't trust them on the road, and they don't have a great run game. Very CeeDee Lamb dependent, and Dak leads the league in touchdown passes. At 4, we got the Lions, 7-0 when they rush for 140 yards or more, and they do that a lot. They got a great roster. They probably should have beat the Cowboys. They didn't, and their defense and secondary is weak. At 3, I got them way up there. I got the Browns. They have won the last 4 games. They're getting hot at the right time. They got a great defense. Stefanski is leading Coach of the Year award. Flacco playing unreal, and he knows how to win playoff games. At 2, 49ers. They've won 21 straight regular season games when they score at least 20 points. They're probably going to rest players this week. Easily the best team in the NFC. At 1, Ravens destroyed San Francisco, Miami, Detroit, Seattle. Lamar is going to be the MVP. Zay Flowers looks like a veteran. Likely is coming on as a stud. The culture in the organization is great. That is our power rankings top 10. Fantasy. This is the last week we're going to be going over fantasy stuff. Most leads have concluded. It's been a good year, but yeah, week 17 booms. Who do you have? Who boomed this week?
Biggest boom this week, and a guy you probably see on a significant amount of championship winners, CeeDee Lamb, 13 for 227 and a touchdown. Just absurd week. Every time the Cowboys needed something, they were able to find CD, and he just cooked the Lions. Next, we touched on Lamar Jackson against the Dolphins. 18 of 21, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns. Just freakish efficiency. Add another 35 yards rushing, 5 passing touchdowns. Just huge week for Lamar, capping off an amazing season. Another MVP for him. Then Devontae Adams, after an absolute stinker last week, 13 for 126 and 2 touchdowns. He had 21 targets. That's wild.
That is a
Crazy
lot of
good week for
targets.
him. Yeah, really, really good week for him. And then lastly, Najee, man. Said it last week. Get him in the lineup. 27 for 122, 2 touchdowns. He's just been looking better and better. And this Seattle Seahawks run D has not been great, and huge week for him.
Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco, 29.5 points. Did some great run. He runs so hard. Just watching him run, it's like it hurts your eyes a little bit. It's like he's running so hard. For the defenses, we'll go Bills D, 20 points against the Patriots, and the Texans D, 22 points. Jordan Love, 28 points in the rout on the Vikings. Kyron Williams, 30 points, 3 touchdowns. He has 6 touchdowns in the last 6 weeks. Been unbelievable. And we'll finish off with James Conner, 26 points, 2 touchdowns. When James Conner has played, he's been incredibly productive. Let's move
Yeah,
over into our bust side. I didn't have a ton of busts this week, but what do you have? Week 17 busts.
Stephon Diggs, like really just the entire last 2 months has been so
Yeah.
forgettable. Um,
You can just like count him in
Bills,
for like 6 or 7 fantasy points a week right
yeah,
now. It's
the Bills passing offense never really got going very well in this game, and yeah, Diggs was just a mess. Really, couldn't do anything. Another poor week for him, and really not a good finish to the year. Next, kind of a surprise. Buccaneers secondary has looked pretty attackable, but Chris Olave did not have a big game at all for the Saints. He only had 3 catches, like 20 something yards. Just um, not a very good game for him to finish off the season. Tyler Lockett had 1 catch for, I believe, 10 yards
yep.
against the Steelers this week. I know he hadn't been exactly a world beater, but that was a pretty poor performance for him. And then lastly, Travis Kelce, like something is definitely wrong. If you look at his, numbers after like maybe the first 6 weeks of the year, it's really, really fallen off.
He hasn't had more than 50 yards in 3 straight games.
Yeah, I think I was looking at. I think the last like 10 weeks, I think he had 1 touchdown, and he got more than 50 yards, like maybe 4 times, but only one of those times was over 80 yards, or maybe 2 were over 80. I was looking. It's
Yep.
I don't know.
Either
He has
way, he
not
was
looked like
he was drafted in the first round of our fantasy
yes.
league, as he was in probably most, but I don't think he's a first round draftable player moving
No,
forward.
no, absolutely not. The reason that Kelsey was taken in the first round is because of how much of a significant advantage you get over the rest of the tight ends. You basically just win that spot guaranteed every week. And not only has he disappointed and kind of started to, maybe show his age, but there's so many good young tight ends now that gap is shrinking kind of from both sides.
Right.
Um, it's the position isn't as shallow as it has been in
A lot of
previous
good
years.
tight ends
So
out there right now.
yeah,
Okay. I will go with Cole Kmet. 0 points, 0 targets for Chicago. I'm gonna throw both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in here. Higgins had 3 points, Chase had 7 points, but 4 catches between the two of them for T.
mhm.
Higgins and Chase. That doesn't make much sense. 4 catches. That's crazy. And then lastly, I'm gonna throw CMC in there. 13 points like is a bust game for him. I mean, he came out of the game with the injury, obviously, but still 13 points. That's pretty weak for
Yeah.
CMC. All right, got a new segment this week. Since there's no next week starts or sits, what we are gonna do is we have the biggest steal and the biggest bust of fantasy this year. So, who is your biggest steal of fantasy this year, Andrew?
Uh, my singular biggest steal, I got to go with Puka. The revelation he's been. Um, I mean, really, nobody saw it coming. And then first week, he's going out there and had like 15 targets or something crazy, putting up huge numbers. He's, setting all these rookie records for wide receivers. It's been an unbelievable year for him, and the teams that were able to grab him absolutely were probably teams that were, making the playoffs. And then, with how he played a couple weeks ago, possibly making championships and stuff.
Yep.
So I'm going with Puka Nacua.
I'm going to go with Sam Laporta. In my league, he was drafted round 14, pick 8. So, almost not even drafted. And he ended up as the number 1 tight end in fantasy. So, yeah, crazy good value. If you have a keeper league, that's probably your keeper. I don't, but yeah. Let's move over into the biggest busts of fantasy for the year. Who do you got? Who's your biggest bust?
So I like,
There's a couple this year. If you want to go with
yeah,
two, give them
I,
to
I,
me.
I want to like section it off. So like Nick Chubb, but not, not because he just got hurt. And
Right.
so he
Yeah.
basically
But
didn't play.
I
Same.
believe that an injury is a bust. So if you get hurt
Okay.
in week 3 and you're out
So
for the year, like it sucks. Sorry we
yeah,
picked you in round 1, but like you're
yeah.
out for like so what is
So
your
because that's like same thing
right,
like Nick Chubb, Justin Jefferson, both of them hurt for pretty
right.
much screwed teams that took them. But I also have, as far as guys that were drafted that just straight up were terrible, like
Okay.
Miles Sanders.
Yep.
People were taking him, as like a legitimate running back too. Like some people thought he could, be looking 15, 20 touches or run carries a game, getting some catches, like being a decent dude. Like straight up lost the job and was horrible, like truly terrible when he played this year. So I would put him up there. Um, really disastrous year.
I'm gonna go Joe Burrow. Round 3, pick 1. So borderline second round, third round pick.
Mhm.
Played 10 games. Only scored 20 plus points 3 times. If you're taking a quarterback that early, that's a tough way to go. I'm also gonna throw Alexander Madison in there. He in our league he was picked it in round 5, but he became an unstartable player in the league after week 6. He's just if you took him, he was basically useless to your team after the first few weeks. Just terrible value there in the 5th round. For Madison, you got any else you want to throw in there?
Yeah, it kind of a similar thing. Damian Pierce. A lot of people thought he could be, a solid kind of mid-round running back, and he essentially ended up losing the job to Devin Singletary, and um, really kind of fell off. Christian Watson. A lot of people were super high on him coming into the year. Thought he was going to do huge things, and honestly, with how well Jordan Love did this season, it's surprising to see he didn't do much. He just simply was hurt way, way too much. It seems to be the big knock on him, and going forward seems to be something that's going to have to be considered when drafting Christian Watson.
Yep.
And then lastly, another guy we literally just talked about it, but Travis Kelce was taken in the first round.
Yep.
When you take Travis Kelce in the first round, I know he finished, I think, tight end 2 on the year, but the idea of taking Travis Kelce is you are looking to beat the tight end position by 100 points. You are
If
looking
you
to just
drafted Travis
dominate.
Kelce in the first round this year, it's very likely that you miss the playoffs in your fantasy
Yeah,
league. Because if you're
exactly.
taking Kelce, now you're not getting a wide receiver or a running back till probably likely the 15th, 16th pick of the draft. Like
Exactly.
you're throwing away so much for someone that didn't produce what they were supposed to.
Exactly. So that's why I kind of have him on the flop list, because taking Kelce that early, like he has to hit, he has to be tight end 1, he has to be that dominant over that position, uh, so that you can kind of make it up by maybe not having a top running back or wide receiver at the other positions, and
Right.
he just flat out did not do that this year.
All right, let's get into the gambling lines of the week. Got games on Saturday and Sunday this week. No Thursday, no Monday. So on Saturday, Steelers at Ravens. Ravens getting 3.5. Let's just throw in there though that a lot of teams are sitting players this week, so got some wonky lines. Really got to look at who's starting. But let's start that again. On Saturday, we got Steelers at Ravens. Ravens getting 3.5, and Texans at Colts. Colts getting 1. On Sunday, we got Bucks at Panthers. Panthers getting 5.5. Browns at Bengals. Bengals favored by 6. Vikings at Lions. Lions favored by 3. Jets at Patriots. Patriots favored by 2.5. Falcons at Saints. Saints favored by 3. Jags at Titans. Titans getting 5.5. Seahawks at Cardinals. Cardinals getting 3. Bears at Packers. Packers favored by 3. Eagles at Giants. Giants getting 5. Broncos at Raiders. Raiders favored by 2.5. Chiefs at Chargers. Chargers favored by 3. Rams at 49ers. 49ers favored by 3. Cowboys at Commanders. Commanders getting 13. Bills at Dolphins. Dolphins getting 3. Must watch game of the week. Pretty obvious answer here. What is it?
Uh, so I have it as the most must win, not must watch. Must watch, I believe, is Houston and Indy.
Yep. Of
The
course. Gotta
most
be.
must win game is Jaguars playing the Titans, in my opinion,
Okay.
because I look across the league. There's a ton of teams that have to win to get in the playoffs, but a
Right.
lot of them like Texans or Colts, like neither of them supposed to make the playoffs this year. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
ahead of schedule. They're whatever. The Jaguars have to make the playoffs this year. They've this is their year to win it. They have all their pieces. They have everything. Like they're supposed to win this division. Nobody else was like they could not lose that game to the Titans. They have to win that. They have to win the division. They need to go to the playoffs. So they really a lot of pressure on them this week.
I agree. All right, let's get into our bets. Last week our podcast had a great week betting. Andrew went 2-0-1 and I went 3-0. So 5-0-1 for the podcast, no losing bets. Andrew took Ravens -3.5, which hit, Broncos -5, which hit, and Raiders +3, which it came out even. I took Ravens 3.5 hit, Broncos -5 hit, and 49ers -13.5 hit. Last week of regular season gambling, what are your bets of the week?
I believe that was our first push of the year too.
Yeah, it was.
So I don't trust any of these. It's early in the week. I'm not trusting any of these teams that I don't know who's going to be playing. So I
Right.
kind of
Got to
stuck with.
sort through them this week.
I'm sticking with the games that matter. I was able to find things I like. Packers -3 home against Chicago. Packers have owned the Bears in recent history, and I don't think that changes here. The Packers are playing good football, and I know Chicago's been playing some good football, but this game's in Lambeau. I think the Packers put it together. I think they beat the Chicago team, and go to the playoffs. Then I'm going to take Houston -1 at Indy. I think they're the better team. They've got the better quarterback. Um, I know it's on the road, Saturday night prime time, but I'm going to take Houston here. I think they win that game. And then lastly, I just do not feel good about the Miami Dolphins, man. Something's not right. The injuries, the offense not clicking. I'm taking Buffalo -3. I know it's a home game, but um, I just think the Bills are the better team right now. And unfortunately, Dolphins just have too many issues.
All right. I'm taking Bucks -5.5. They still want to win this game. They're playing players. The Panthers suck. They just lost 26-0. I think the Bucks win by a touchdown here, maybe 28-20 in cover. I got Lions -3. They're coming off that loss to the Cowboys. I don't see a Dan Campbell team throwing any give up in there, even if they are locked into the playoffs. Vikings are out. I like Lions -3 at home. And then I'm with you on the Packers. They own the Bears. They need to win. Packers are playing good. Bears are just, probably overvalued with 4 wins in 5 games. So Packers -3. Lock them in.
I appreciate you thinking the Panthers can score 20 points this week. It's very
Yeah.
kind of you.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, the
20
Bucks
more
aren't
than last week.
the Bucks aren't the best team, but I think they're a touchdown better than the Panthers are.
I think
Yeah,
so,
so
too.
we went through a ton today. A lot of stuff to talk about. But yeah, it was good. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes drop every Wednesday at 8 a.m. We'll be back next week to talk about the final week of the regular season and get
Oh,
into
yeah.
playoffs. Any last words, Andrew?
No, it's going to be a fun week. There's a lot of drama, a lot of exciting games, a lot of good football going to be happening this weekend. So y'all enjoy it and hit us up if you got any questions or suggestions or anything.
Yeah, 14 games on Sunday. So get your schedule ready. Football all day. All right. We will see you all next week. Appreciate it.
See you.